I wanted to do a review on this Worth 10,000 pound clear floor 2-post lift that I recently purchased. Worth is a manufacturer based out of Texas that kind of beats their chest on quality and the fact that they're a truly American-made manufacturer. And they make these lifts to order, which is a couple of reasons why I ordered from them. You're able to kind of customize the lift a little bit. In this case, I ordered it 1 foot wider and 1 foot taller than their standard 10,000 pound clear floor model. Now they told me 8 weeks upon ordering, and it actually took little over 18 weeks for me to actually receive the lift. The cost was $4,150, I believe, with shipping, with the custom options as well. They gave me a $100 discount for paying over the phone via check. And initially when I received this thing, I noticed some issues right away. So some of the reviews you'll read, people kind of claim or complain about damage when they receive their lift. Well, the way that this thing shipped, as soon as the truck door opened, I could see why. Basically, one column is stacked on the other. It is wrapped with that half corrugated cardboard that's laying on the shop floor, which is very, very thin material. It's banded and it's wrapped with a little bit of shrink wrap. There's no skid. There's no protectors of any sort. You got an 1,850 pound piece of equipment here that you need to handle. It's basically laying on the truck bed. And so it's going to get damaged. It's going to get scratched up. And that's something that could very easily be remedied by this company if they took a little time to properly package this thing and ship it out. Another thing about them is I don't know if this thing's ALI certified. There's no stickers on the lift. There's nothing I could find in any literature on their website, on their sales brochure, that stated it was. So I do not believe it is. So if that's an issue for you, I do not believe that this company is ALI certified. Also, like I said, they're a custom manufacturer, so there's some quality issues that I believe this company has. So the column extension, which is laying on the floor here, is bolted in the column upright on the 4 corners. That sticker with an arrow says fork blades here, and it's referring to that slot that's there. So the manufacturer is directing you to move this lift with a forklift coming in this slot, picking this thing up, which is 9 feet long and 1,800 pounds or 1,900 pounds, and moving it around. Well, being wrapped with only this thin half corrugated cardboard and some plastic, the underside of this column the paint's just trashed. And there's also a dent up where the tips of the forks would land in there because there's no protection whatsoever besides the cardboard and plastic. It's just a poor design or poor shipping setup the way it is. The other thing with bolting this column upright, the column extension into the upright, is the holes are all 3/4 and the fasteners they use are 1/2 inch by 2 inch material. Well, what happens is, if you can see here, this camera will focus, the threads are galled. So all the fasteners laying on the floor are trashed, they're shot. The threads are all galled. So, and it doesn't ship with any extra hardware. While I was unpackaging this lift, I noticed right away, you can visually see that plate, that column extension base plate that sits on top of the main column, is bent. And it's not just bent this way, it's a result of the fillet weld that's ran down each side. It's like a saucer. If it was standing up vertical on the floor, all corners would be coming up, and the main base plates are the same way. And this plate is pretty bad. It's about 1/4 inch aside. If you run it all, it's almost a 1/2 inch there that this thing's out. And again, it's not just across, it's vertical as well. And this is a 1/2 inch plate. This is a 5/8 inch base plate, and it's the same way. Here you can see it's about 3/16 there, and almost about 1/4 right there. again, it's like a dish. Now, if your floor was relatively flat and you were to try to stand this column up and bolt it to the floor, you're going to need shims. You wouldn't want to try to attempt to pull this plate flat with the 3/4 wedge anchors. You'll risk pulling the anchors out. So you would have to use shims all the way around. And they do not supply you with any shims in the hardware. Here I've got one of the column extensions standing up, and you can actually see that this piece here, this I-beam, is actually welded on, twisted. The squares flush up here, and there's a gap, almost an 1/8 inch back here in the corner. So what that means is where your cables route through these holes and go over the pulleys, they're essentially going to be coming through on sort of an angle, which is going to wear your pulleys out faster. So at the top of the column extensions, you'll notice that 3/8 washer welded on the column there. That is actually for the safety stop, which consists of this small 1/16 aircraft cable, which would loop through one side, crimp to itself, run across the overhead of the lift to the opposite column, then down to the power unit, which there's a pull-out switch on. So your vehicle would have to make contact with an exposed bare aircraft cable in order to shut the power to the pump off. So this lift is not a direct drive lift. It has the chain over cylinder design. It also has individual locks via that lever on each column. There's not one unified lock lever. And then there's also details like this here, which you can see it's rough cut and not finished. The same with that. That's to allow access to that fitting. Another thing I found is that this has a 2 horsepower power unit. Worth advertises in their sales brochure that all 2-post lifts come standard with a 3 horsepower power unit. Here's a shot of the nameplate. You can clearly see that this is a 2 horsepower motor. On the opposite side of the motor is a sticker applied crooked that says the motor torque is equivalent to 3.5 horsepower. Now originally I was thinking that this was done through some sort of gear reduction, maybe in the pump, but they're stating that the motor torque is equivalent to 3.5 horsepower. Now this one operates at 3450 according to the nameplate. Typically you'll have a little more torque, in my experiences with electric motors, when they're at a lower RPM. So that's interesting itself. Also, it has a plastic reservoir hydraulic tank. The lift arms themselves look like a high school welding project gone wrong. To start with, if you look down this particular arm, and that one too, that pin attachment is coming off on an angle. It's welded on, the piece is welded on crooked. And here you can see it's flush, and there's a gap here. The pin itself does not fit, and that's because there's weld spatter in the holes. You'll notice there's a significant amount of grinding that took place here. This is only an 8-inch knee brace. Typically you'll see them run them out substantially further. Here they got a little bit of a brace. There's a little bit of weld undercutting going on here. These two, here's a nice BB. You can see these two pieces, pretty loosey-goosey. Significant amount of play in those two. This whole thing is 1/4-inch wall material. I believe that this is a 3x3 1/4-inch wall tube, and that I believe is a 4x4 1/4-inch wall tube, which it makes me a little nervous too. Usually even on the cheaper lifts, the Chinese cheap lifts, you got 3/8 tubing. Here you got an Acme thread for the pad. Here, this piece is not set all the way, sitting proud, welded, but somebody missed a step here. The other ones are sitting flush. It ships out with 4 7-inch tall fixed height truck adapters. Now these things match the arms. They're hokey pokey too. took a plate and they put a bend in it, and this is designed to slide over the arm, or excuse me, the pad, like so. It's got a little angle iron welded on the back to stop it. But if you look at these things closely, when they bent it, it's cracked. There's one on the bottom too. And they're all like that. Stress cracked. So these arms, I don't trust these arms at all. If I was keeping this lift, I would remake these arms myself. It ships with 3/4 by 5.5 wedge anchors, washers and nuts, and then there's the remaining 1/2 inch by 2 inch hardware, which you're probably going to need more of, and basic instructions, as well as the hydraulic hoses and equalizer cables. So overall, I'm not happy with this lift at all. You're paying sort of a premium price for this lift. Again, it was $41.50 as I ordered it, 1 foot wider, 1 foot higher, 10,000 pound capacity. You're paying a premium price. It's a very, very crude design. You know, this is probably a design that came out 30 years ago and has never changed. You know, the exposed equalizer cables, there's no rubber door guards or protection on the column carriages, the individual locks. It's a very, very crude design. And besides that, all the issues I've found with it, I've dealt directly with the president of Worth Equipment. In his words, he flat out told me he was wasting his time talking to somebody who doesn't know anything about lifts. Specifically when I was complaining that the column base plates weren't flat. He said that that's completely normal. All his lifts ship out like that, and there's nothing you can do to prevent that from happening. Well, we all know that that's not true, and it's not acceptable. I mean, you're paying a premium price for this. You deserve to be getting flat base plates, at least. You know, it's getting into a safety issue. He told me that all manufacturers like that. That's not true either. You know, I checked out a couple rotaries, and their base plate was flat as can be. You know, I've talked to installers, a couple different installers that sell multiple lifts, and they said that that is not normal. It's not acceptable. Now, this supposedly does have a 5-year warranty, which covers defect and workmanship. Now, you can all see that this lift does in fact have workmanship issues, without a doubt. And there is nothing that the manufacturer will do for me. They said it's normal. There's nothing they'll do about this. So basically, they're telling me I'm stuck with this lift. It's a shame that it has to be like that. You know, I put a lot of faith in this company because they're American made. They're a smaller, you know, manufacturer. I trusted what he said, and you know, he got me. But that's why I'm making this video. You know, there's not a whole lot of information out there. Their brochure is very vague. You know, you deserve to see what you're going to get when you order a piece of equipment like this. So I hope you found this video helpful. Thanks for watching.